There is still a foot of snow on the ground, but I am working on some of my most important garden work for the year. That may sound strange, but I think it's absolutely true. The planning that I do to prepare my garden to start is really important so that I'm getting ready, even though I can't get in the ground for maybe another couple months. So I'll show you a few of my things that I do to plan my garden. This is my very messy garden plan, half of it from last year. And you can see I just took a grid and I kind of marked out my different flower beds, and it's kind of a mess. So I thought about companion planting, I thought about rotational crops and moving things around. If you have had a garden in this space before, you're really going to want to think about building up your soil, maybe buying some worm compost, putting mulch on top of it. I don't till my garden, I do a no-till garden method. So I'm thinking about what I can add back to the soil, smother weeds that are growing, and plan out my best layout for where do I have the best sun, where do I maybe get a little more shade, where maybe my herbs or smaller plants like my basil or beets or radishes that like a little bit cooler weather, my lettuces and kale, they're gonna like that more shadier spot in the garden. Maybe they get the first evening shade because a tree, like the sun hits the tree line. So I'm thinking about all those things based on my location and based on where I had things in previous years. If you haven't thought about that before, that's something you can look more into. The basic premise is if you plant your tomatoes in the same pot of soil or in the same part of your garden every year, the insects and the things that love to eat tomatoes will know this is where I live and this is where the tomatoes will be, and I get to eat all the tomatoes. So by moving things around, it shakes up where your plants are, so it's harder for your pests to find them. Second thing is, tomatoes always need certain things from the soil. Excuse my dog, there's a dog walking by. So tomatoes want certain things from the soil. So if you always have tomatoes in the same place, they're always gonna be trying to pull the same things from the soil. And if they've been there for a few years, there might not be any nitrogen per se left in that particular space. So by moving your plants around, like green beans are magic, they're called nitrogen fixers. So they actually pull nitrogen and pull it into the soil. And that's what a lot of plants want. So by moving your different families, your tomatoes a different family than your green beans, which is a different family than your potatoes, by planting them together or by moving them around, you're going to have better results. Another way you can compensate I only have this one place that I can garden, I have a very small garden, I can't really move them around, is by amending your soil, which is what I'm saying, you're adding things to it. So some of your most important garden work is thinking through some of those things. If you don't know, a quick Google search will pull up garden rotation and you can think about that. This year, what I've decided to do is I have typed out my garden plan so that hopefully I don't have this kind of a mess by the end of the year, and then I have a record of it that I'm not gonna lose and have blow away someday, or if I'm out gardening and it starts raining, I'm not gonna lose my garden plan. So I can think about, okay, companion plants, what likes to be planted together again? Oh yeah, potatoes and green beans. They like to be together. I'm gonna put them in this spot here and this spot here, and I'm gonna mix them up. I know my herbs are over here, and okay, I'm gonna move my tomatoes and my basil over on this side of the garden this year. And so then I can do all my pre-planning of, okay, my onions and my squash and my lettuce, they're gonna all kind of mix up in this box over here. So when I go to plant my garden, I've done a lot of the thinking already, right? Because then I know, okay, these are the things I want. So then I can buy the seeds according to what I have space for. This is like classic gardener problem is I want to plant all the things. Can I fit all the things into my garden? I don't know. So by doing your plan, you're like, yeah, oh, I've got some gaps by the zucchini. What can I plant in? Maybe something small that would start fast and then maybe be done by the time the zucchini is ginormous by the end of the summer. So you can think then about your plan. You can see I have a very large garden. So I end up having 2 pages, and these are pretty big garden squares. So I'm planning it out, thinking about, yes, my cucumbers, I'm gonna move those over there. My beets, I'm gonna put in the back. I think that's a little bit shady in that spot over there. And then, yeah, so I'm moving things around, keeping things, and then there are things that don't like to be together. They don't want to be near each other. I think tomatoes and potatoes are like that, where they do not grow well near each other. So a really important part this time of year that you can start working on is thinking about your design for your garden, your layout for your garden, because then that's like, oh yeah, I could build a trellis. We'll talk about cattle panel trellises. They're my favorite because they make this beautiful tunnel and the plants are growing under it, and it makes your garden look like a jungle. And they're really, really easy and inexpensive to put up. So we'll talk more about trellises and things like that. But those are all pieces that you want to kind of think about. How much space do I have? How much sun do I have? Do I need to think about worm castings? Oh yeah, I saw some of those at Costco. I should throw them in my cart. That would be great. Or there's a lot of places online where you can add worm castings to your Amazon order. Great, done. You can even do your own worm farming. I haven't gotten into that, but I have friends that do. It's really great. They just make your own compost for free. Chicken compost is another really excellent compost for your garden. So, what are you planning? How big of a garden do you have? I would love to hear in your comments if you have specific questions, or if you've not heard of no-till gardening. Tell me what your questions are. I would love to get back to you and hear what you're thinking for your garden and how you're starting to plan for the year. I'm excited to grow green wonder with you as we just become amazed and see how things like marigolds and cucumbers together are a beautiful thing. It's so great how God has designed these plants to flourish better together. Be sure to like and subscribe and find out more about cattle panels and companion planting and more of those details in gardening to make your garden grow better.